They're a top 6. I mean, so they just continue surprising us. We're into the draft phase for game 3. First pick, what is it going to be? Top Esports eyeing that Taliyah, and plenty of combos between the Pantheon and the Xin Zhao still available to combo with this Taliyah.
And I think that the main difference between game 1 and game 2 was Kanavi's champion pool, right? Like we've seen Neferi where he took over, and then game 2 we saw Sejuani where he got rolled. So there is just a complete difference there in what these two junglers have looked to do, and how Kanavi has performed in both of those games. With already the Ambessa taken off the board here for Cube. Very dive-centric composition, engaged from the get-go. Pantheon fits better than the Xin Zhao. It does get locked in, so expect to see that pairing nicely lined up. But that does give Kanavi this Xin Zhao here. It gives him a chance to put back to bed some of those qualms that we had with him in game 2.
I'm curious, Rood. Monki was flashing other jungle options that he has played through this split. Is there a chance that they flex this Pantheon? Are they like
Thank you.
Carry on.
Look, I mean, there just isn't. This is such a Monki-esque champion, and if Vampire now takes this, then it makes a great clip. But for WE, the expectation is that they're just going to try and go 2v2. And with these two jungle pairings, you have one shot on either side. You have got, if I hit my target with a CC chain, my jungler or mid laner is going to come in, they can follow up very easily and find that kill. So whoever gets engaged on first is very likely to go down. Now we say very likely because there are obviously caveats to all of that. Unraveled Earth, for example, can buy a little bit of time. Pantheon has got that Shield of Aegis to stop any of those engages or damage coming through as well. So definite counterplay tools available for both of these sides, but it's full dive for WE so far. Now my concern is that both Ezreal and Kai'Sa are off the board. Jhin as well taken away. That's another AD carry that you typically see paired with dive comps because he can still access the backline. WE are going to have to resort to something a little deeper in that champion pool, and you can see top banning away those ADs, knowing that Senna has a great way to pile damage in over the top. And maybe with this Draven ban here, suggesting that we're opting into something that might be a little bit weaker in the early game for WE, but that can still scale up and do that damage as we move later on.
Yeah, and I just really like the pairing of Xin Zhao and Aatrox, because Xin normally preempts the enemy team to pick away from range and pick a bunch of melee so that you can bypass that Crescent Guard power. Well, you don't want to be playing melee into Aatrox once he pops the World Ender, so now you're choosing between one of two options. Do we commit to range? Do we commit to melee? So far, WE have 3 melee champions in their top 3-man core. It's going to come down to what Vampire Taeyoon round out this composition with.
I mean, MF's still open here for both of these two AD carries. I know that JackeyLove has definitely tended towards that in past games. We've got 8 AD carries taken out of the pool between bans and the picks, and it's actually going to be the Smolder, so Mom, a little bit of help over the top taken in game number 3, which is pretty early on here for a Smolder take, but like to see that Taeyoon is now giving WE a little bit of late game insurance policy as well, because so far, very mid-game focused composition for WE.
Ooh.
I mean, that's a lethal duo if they want to take both of them, to be honest.
Yeah, the Xayah quickly flashed by JackeyLove, still going to contemplate what their support option is going to be first. Braum, just another layer of range or protection from range, being able to throw out the unbreakable shield. So that way, if WE wanted to just opt in for the poke game, you've got some... And it's got a way to deal with that.
It says that they knew they were going Braum, but they had something different planned for AD carry, that they weren't sure what they wanted to go for, and they just needed to buy a little bit of time. The time has been bought. They decide that they don't want Xayah. They actually want to throw hands. They want to dice, and they want to be able to maybe navigate themselves out of danger as well with this Tristana being locked in. It's a really good pick to try and punish a Smolder early on with the Braum in tow. You jump forward, the Braum can stand beside up to you, and then you just wail on the Smolder, right? Flap, flap, flap does not give you the space to get through those two or get out of that safety. But I would say I did like the Bard, to be honest, to go into that. I actually really like this bot lane matchup for top esports in particular. Braum typically very good into the Leona, and this just means that WE here are looking at rounding out their composition with that bot lane as opposed to looking for that bot lane 2v2 specifically.
Yeah, and I wonder if the line of thought from WE was, I mean, yeah, this might be better for the lane matchup, but we just need a way to commit without committing. And that's always is available when you have a solar flare. You can fish for it with the ultimate, but I understand where you're coming from.
I don't like it with this WE composition, because if you commit with the solar flare and you're looking for a way of committing without committing, then yes, you can get public execution, but I actually, with Grand Starfall, you need to prep that. That's not something that you just have to send it. Pantheon's not a kind of to in and throw in, maybe we can go, maybe we can't kind of champion. You have to just send it, and you have to be committed to going in. So if the Pantheon goes in and the Leona, misses, it's going to be disastrous. You have to all be on the same page and kind of going regardless. But if they do end up all going, absolutely, right? This WE composition dives exceptionally well. The Tristana can do a little bit of circumventing that by getting out to safety. But Top Esports certainly will struggle if they get engaged on.
Series 1-1 between Top Esports and Team WE. Both teams effectively having their own kind of versions of a blowout performance. Obviously, Top Esports were able to get through any of the early looks that WE had in Game 1 pretty unscathed, and Kanavi had, an impressive Nefiri performance, whereas WE blasted them in Game 2. Here we are into the Rift for Game 3.
I do want to remind people that as we see a quick little getaway by Karis there, we've got a dive composition for WE versus what is a very good anti-dive composition for Top Esports. Now, if WE succeed and they can make access to that backline, then yes, their comp will go crazy. But Talia Unraveled Earth, the Braum to block damage from Taeyoon, and Kanavi as well with that Crescent Guard can actually buy a lot of space if people do dive on top, and could be a pretty big disruption factor for WE. Cube in position early to take a good trade onto 369. Couple quick spells and he's out to safety. But I'm concerned for WE if Top Esports play these fights as you would expect. The idea of having a disengaged composition ready versus an engaged comp typically favors the disengagers.
Yeah, the way that Top Esports were able to round out their bottom lane is just so nice, because you have all-in threat onto the Smolder early, and then you just have ways to punt back any of the melee divers from WE. Tristana ultimate, Braum can just break it open with the Glacial Fissure. This is probably one of my favorite drafts that Top Esports have just been able to navigate throughout this entire split, frankly. And if you're a die-hard Top Esports fan, you need this win, because after what happened in Game 2, it was just not what you want to see from the side of Top Esports.
I'm looking at some of those score lines as well. The one that caught my eye was 5-0 for Crisp on this Braum. That so far Top Esports have had like just really insane Braum angles, and they found yet another one. My expectation is that they probably make it 6-0, to be honest, looking at the baseline for this draft. But if this Smolder can't get off to the races, can't scale up, it is going to struggle. And I think if this game goes later on, that's when WE, they're going to have the pitfalls of their composition, but also the power of that Smolder. Now, Monki here wisely skips his red buff, spots out Kanavi, but he doesn't have Cryo in either of his solo lanes. So it's probably just going to be Kanavi quickly taking this one away.
Oh, cheeky stuff from Kanavi. He doesn't care about finishing camps, he just cares about making sure that Monki doesn't get to farm them himself. Kanavi willing to throw it as Monki is forced to use the smite early onto the Krugs. Kanavi will dash in knowing that Monki's spells are off cooldown, and without a smite, Kanavi should have full control of this red buff since Monki just used his own for that Krug camp.
Now look who's here as well, right? Crisp has already moved on up, so this is a numbers advantage for Top Esports if they look to take this. They saw Crisp in mid lane. WE should know that this isn't a fight they can have.
Good dash by Karis, dodging out on what could have been a pretty devastating Talia combo there. Kanavi's able to guarantee red buff, and unfortunately for WE, they had a 2v1 advantage in JackeyLove, and there's not really much that they can do to punish him since you have a Leona, but paired with a smolder early on, and now is this going to be a top lane dive 3 versus 1 against Cube? He has flash. The minion wave is dying. They're not going to dive on that wave, but will they stick around and do it again the second time around?
Crisp is unfortunately just a little bit late to that play. I think if he walks in with Kanavi, they can make that attempted dive happen, but with the minions falling, it would have been a little too rushed, and there's no way they can secure that it's Crisp who takes aggro, so they're a little bit hesitant. They don't go for that play. But Monki here, at least there's an idea from Top Esports that Monki will be on this route to hit. They don't really have the response for it just yet. But you're quite right though, Raafaa, that for Top Esports, it's just a really good early game sequence where they know that they've got the stronger pieces, so they're going to move them around the board, around the map here, and to find an advantage with that early push down on the bot side. It's all a massive snowball effect. The fact that JackeyLove and Chris were able to push in a bot wave, find a free recall for Jackie and a good roam time for Chris, means that they can move the Braum up to this top side, find that red buff, deny, and put Monki behind. This series has been about the junglers in games 1 and 2. And in game 3, setting Monki behind, it bodes well.
Considering the fact that Monki got his counter pick of choice into that Sejuani with the signature trundle of all pieces. None of these champs are necessarily as hard carry threats as something like in the Fury we saw from Kanavi game 1, but you're absolutely right that if either of these junglers are able to get the stronger footing in the early game, it has tended more often than not to be a strong indicator of which team is going to have the chance to close out the game successfully.
And again, want to remind people that for this game in particular, the late game scaling, I think that for WE is reliant exclusively on Taeyoon. And as far as carries for WE go, that's probably the best place for you to be relying into the late game of this situation. But yeah, I'm looking at the late game for Top Esports as well. A Tristana has the largest base range. Imagine we get to level 18, has the largest base range of any AD carry. So with an attack speed steroid in her kit as well, can do very large amounts of damage in a late game situation with all of the extra peel and extra CC that the team can provide for her. Don't count out JackeyLove as a late game hyper carry threat just because Taeyoon is playing this notorious hyper carry in the smolder.
Yep. Ooh. Upspell up duck does not connect on the chains towards Creme, where Monki was in position to follow up with AW. Creme will avoid danger there. Meanwhile, Kanavi is burning down the first dragon thanks to the priority of all of his lanes, giving him that setup. Taeyoon, a vampire, has spotted it out. Monki is walking on over. The dragon should still go over to Kanavi, but maybe there's a good fight for the side of WE afterwards. Creme sends it. Vampire's going to be the... No, he's not the first one to fall. It's actually Chris, and WE are able to just pounce on the Top Esports, who have overplayed their hand in the dragon pit.
And it's a 2-for-1 overall. Vampire goes down and Creme goes down. If it was just both supports, wouldn't really be a big deal. But actually, it's a kill for Taeyoon, it's a kill for Karis. And yes, JackeyLove picks up the kill that Top Esports find. And they find the dragon. So it doesn't feel awful, but it's mid lane that's really going to suffer from this. Creme was already down a little bit of experience, and now he's down even further as he loses out on another wave in that mid lane because he's getting pressured to take this fight around the dragon. Vampire, great target selection, straight onto JackeyLove, puts him to half HP before the fight even really begins. And then he baits in Kanavi as well. Just by going back and flashing backwards, it costs Kanavi enough of his health so that he can't continue to find DPS in this fight. Ends up leaving Creme here as well, whose flash leaves a lot to be desired as we look at it in hindsight. But for Top Esports, gold onto JackeyLove is good. And there's not too much going well across the rest of the map.
Yeah, I'm looking at Creme being put behind as a sign of potential worry for Top Esports. Now, this time around, Kanavi is not... Oh, hang on. Monki's going to look forward onto a flashless Creme. Seismic Shove will punt away Karis, but Monki's got Vampire in his back pocket, and they can still pull off the assassination.
It is Vampire that takes it, but the stolen away Glacial Fissure to do disgusting things to Creme is definitely a sight for sore eyes. And now a public execution.
369 forced the flash, pops the World Ender just for the movement speed to get the hell out of there, but WE are going to be able to fully off Top Esports away from the remaining grubs and pick up the other two.
Let's see. Monki, check smite. Remember, last time, we struggled. Beautiful. Well executed by WE, and now Taeyoon, he takes an auto attack from JackeyLove. It's going to take a little bomb explosion as well, but I mean, the Tristana with a BS sword is definitely a scary spike. She's going to get some Utal very early on. Definitely a little bit worried for the pace in this game as Taeyoon already stacking up quite nicely. 67 stacks at 9 minutes in is a pretty decent pace for a Smolder, especially one who theoretically should be struggling in this lane.
Yeah. Oh, Monki just flash W on this guy. Yep, hold this upscon abduct, little bro. Creme is not having his day in this game 3.
And I mean, what do you do as an immobile mage versus Pantheon with flash versus Silas with 3 dashes? The answer is unfortunately die. You burned your flash in the Drake fight and WE are capitalizing. Monki, once again, having a good run of things and this time coming out on top in this jungle matchup through the first 10 minutes of this game. And this is after Monki got set behind because his bot lane had to lose early on due to the bot side matchup. This is a great redemption from Monki in game 3, and again, a categoric reason why this guy needs to be taken extremely seriously moving into our, remainder of playoffs.
Yep, and another step up from Karis, who is receiving a lot of support and a lot of attention from Monki, which hasn't really necessarily been a pattern that we saw from WE during the regular season when they were first starting to turn up. It was mostly playing through Taeyoon and Vampire and Karis and Cube just trying to do the best to hold their own. Karis is one of the first people on the map to have an item spike. The proto belt early on for something like a Silas can be so deadly. If top esports are ever out of position, this Silas is going to blow you up so fast.
And really here, with Essence Reaver coming through for Taeyoon as well, this Drake fight in a minute's time, probably going to be very WE favoured as well. Wouldn't expect that to go any other way given the state that we're in. But interestingly, it's actually a weird situation where buying a cult early has actually netted JackeyLove a loss overall. He's not at that first item of the Wild Arrows, which he would be at had he not. Looking on this top side, you can see Monki has got Grand Starfall ready in case 369 got a little bit too over-aggressive, but with Kanavi hovering around that top side as well. As junglers with this 30 seconds now on that Drake, a little bit worried, a little bit cognizant that firing ultis, firing shots early on, maybe not quite what we're after.
Just under 12 minutes into the game, 20 seconds before the second dragon spawns. WE in a much better position than they probably should have been, considering how well top esports were set up for success. But being able to punish top esports at the dragon fight and then continuously leveraging Karis up for success and putting Creme behind now gives them the opportunity to be the first ones to take this dragon for themselves, and rightfully so from the rest of top esports will not even think about contesting.
Double bases from our top laners, they both got TP, but again, not expecting there to be too much on a contest as Monki is just lurking with it on low HP. Vampire finds Kanavi, and this could be the fight that they were looking for.
Karis stealing the Crescent Guard. Vader punts it out. They're going to look at Crisp next. Oh, this is a big fight. 369 popping the World Ender, about to go Super Saiyan in this fight. Karis not able to find the mark on the JackeyLove, and now Karis is overextended in No Man's Land.
Lovely!
Execution finds the assassination on JackeyLove. The Soul Raiders for WE stepping up once again. It's a double kill for Karis. 369, the World Ender has run out, and his world is about to come crashing down as the rest of top esports are once again getting completely owned by WE.
A 2k gold lead, 12.5 minutes in. It's WE that come out on top of this fight. They thought that they'd caught Vampire out, but Aftershock and Eclipse is one hell of a drug Raafaa, and the Leona takes far too long to fall. It baits in top esports, and they lose out on yet another early game fight. This is a composition that should be able to absorb those engages, but when they find these weird flank angles, when those teleports put them straight into the waiting arms of WE, whoever a dive composition, it just makes it a little too easy for WE to come out on top. Hopefully we get a replay to take a little look at quite actually how that happened, but for the time being, WE are in the ascendancy.
And if they're able to just use this advantage that they have just to buy time for Taeyoon, that's all that Monki and Karis need to do at this point. And the fact that Cube has been able to join in and find a nice fight and look for himself with the Vampire Karis, once again, it is just the Bully Creme show in Game 3. Karis now 4-0-4 on the Silas.
And this is that play that happened before. So Vampire here, procs Aftershock, procs Eclipse, and actually a really good Crescent Guard keeps Karis out of that backline. But 369 and Chris find themselves between 5 people and pretty much sacrifice their entire HP bar. Cube and Karis with an insane link up here. Cube spins on a dime. Public execution in the face of a Silas who can channel full chains, get the damage onto the Tristana, and JackeyLove stands absolutely no chance. 369 barely able to limp out to safety, and Taeyoon, he gets sad, he flashes over the wall because he's missing out on all the action, doesn't end up contributing all that much. But it's giving WE this continued aggression, this renewed lead, and even more power in this series.
Monki and Vampire roaming proactively now in this mid-game where Karis has been set up for success. Already halfway to his second item where Creme just finished. His Archangel's Embrace is on brown bags. Unfortunately, is dirt poor compared to Karis, who has nearly a 2,000 gold advantage. WE setting up for this Rift Herald. Top Esports at least have, 4 members here. Trying to find, it looks like 369 has already made his way up towards the top side since he did not have teleport available. So this could just be WE giving over the objective.
What are they going to get on the flip side is that big question then, because they have the tools to try and take this fight if they wanted to, and this could just be that it's a good map move by Top Esports that WE weren't expecting. Maybe they didn't expect 369 to come up to the top side and for them to contest. But I think this is a good defense by Top. The way that this game is going, WE with a Herald might have been able to kind of run away with the game. Creme, how safe do you need to play to not die with no flash is the question. And I mean, WE now, they've seen the Aatrox down on that bot side. They've got the timer to make a play happen in this top side. Looks like Creme's fortunate enough with the wave clear and the damage at this point. He can keep himself up with that tier 1 turret. He doesn't die here for a 5th time.
Will say that it was kind of the less of 2 necessary evils from the side of Top Esports, because they do move 369 and they guarantee the Rift Herald for themselves, which, you're right, that WE could have done massive damage, but Cube is given essentially a free wave of experience and gold, takes out the turret by himself as well, so it is now a very accelerated Mbessa that Top Esports are going to have to be mindful of. Still overall 3,000 gold advantage for WE, but not completely out of the woods here for Top Esports. Yeah,
and I do think that JackeyLove on this Tristana has got the tools as we go later. Tristana loves playing against these short-range champions that WE have pretty much drafted for themselves, right? This Tristana scales as we get later on into the game, and this is a complete whiff by Monki as well, so this gives, it gives a reprieve, and it's these small instances of, well, now they've got, is this going to be like 2 minutes where there's no global pressure from Monki? And that was spotted. It was on a wave that Top Esports could see. So they know that actually the dueling power of this Pantheon might be the same, but his global impact not going to be as high.
Top Esports matching WE in the river. The Dragon was at least leashed, but not committed to. Rift Herald dropped. This is going to give Top Esports an angle where WE are going to have the dedicated members to defending the mid-tier 1. So far, it's just Taeyoon left with that burden. And the Dragon is not committed to, as Top Esports going to try to just barrel their way through and blast open the mid lane, opening up the map for them to be able to play through and get better vision and control of these 2 remaining jungle quadrants. Meanwhile, on the other side, Cube takes out another tower for himself. Mbessa is getting very strong quietly in this game.
Cube has got TP, so if they want to take a fight here, WE, they have the tools to do it.
4,000 HP in front of Monki's face. Karis over the wall. It's
stolen.
Monki that secures the Dragon. Cube just dancing on them into the back line. Mom comes through and blasts them down to size. Kanavi on the run. 369 is able to get the first kill of the fight onto Karis, and Taeyoon will drop. 369 comes up huge to save Top Esports' game and brings WE down.
A 4-for-1 for Top Esports. They turn the game right back on its head, flip WE round, and take down 4 of them in the bot side. It's Monki that takes away the Dragon, but it's Top Esports that take away the game. A great team fight from them, and it was just that 369 Aatrox running rampant. Initial engage onto the Kanavi doesn't quite hit. The Crescent Guard gives him space, keeps him alive, and they're able to get access to Cube, who's gone just a bit too far forward. Look at how unchecked 369 goes this entire fight. He gets triple sweet spots onto Karis, who has been the carry for WE during this game. And then Taeyoon just melee tanking the Aatrox, absolutely no chance of him coming out on top of it. And to add insult to injury, JackeyLove was unchecked for the majority of that fight as well. The two-man band between JackeyLove and 369 went mental.
Once again, as we have said before, for top esports, even though Creme has been the recipient of a lot of cyberbullying from WE this game, thankfully for them, they have other carries that they can look to step up when necessary.
5K.
And 369 having, you know, up until this point, a relatively quiet series since he wasn't the star in game 1, and definitely getting outmatched by Cube in the Gragas Renekton matchup, but just going Super Saiyan on this Aatrox in that fight. We talked about it before during the draft, Rood, like the combo between Xin baits WE in, and then Aatrox just gets to punish all the melee short-range users.
2 items now for JackeyLove. That melee combo that you just highlighted, Mark, looks really good for top esports, as it's another whiff on that Grand Starfall. It's another timer where getting into that backline for Monki becomes even more difficult. Unfortunately, with Atacon available, it means that he's going to be a little weaker moving into whatever kind of skirmish it is that we end up seeing here. 2 items on a Trist as well is really big, because Taeyoon can never step anywhere near JackeyLove right now. He just gets gatted down by the crit and by the attack speed that Q provides him. Top esports looking dangerously around this bot side jungle, and they find Monki.
Has no flash, so he's got to be careful. Throws out the shield to mitigate damage. 369 popping the World Ender, forcing Cube out of the fight. Vampire is deep into enemy territory, but Karis has found a TP flank. Finds JackeyLove onto the backside. Mom comes through. Karis eliminates JackeyLove. Chris is going to fall next, and Karis this time is unchecked, so he can rain destruction right on back. Kanavi will find Vampire, but that is the only member that falls with the side of Team WE, and they're right back in control of this game, and will be able to claim Otacon as their prize.
And like a metronome, Mark, it swings back in WE's favor. A massive team fight in bot side gives WE the Atacon in this game number 3. An attack onto the backline of WE, which is not successful, which top esports flub on, and they step too far forward. It pays with JackeyLove's life, with Creme once again. But this replay, look at the TP angle that Karis finds. He gets to be so far behind. He gets such free access to this top esports backline. And JackeyLove wastes his hop. Goes on to an ambassador who doesn't have a reset here, has no way out to safety. Stolen Brawl to public execution. And he's dead before Karis even gets his fingers on him. Yes, it's a double kill for the WE mid laner, but it's a setup once again by Cube. A public execution which catches a Tristana out and finds her hook, line, and sinker.
And I think we get to see in both of those fights where top esports were victorious the first time around and then WE were victorious the second time around, it really does come down to who is engaging second. Because when WE piled into top esports, they received the engage and they punish, thanks to 369 on the World Ender. But when top esports get a little too over aggressive, they pop all their spells a little early, and WE have the perfect counter afterwards. And so now, I think it's just making both teams a little bit wary. Hey guys, do we really want to engage first, or do we?
Oh, yes they do! Top are going, they find a flash out of Vampire. But I think that the thing that I want to point out is that for top esports, their entire composition is built around sitting and absorbing an engage. They've got Unraveled Earth, they've got Braum, but they've just flashed twice aggressively. Which, you know, may end up paying off for them in the long run, but their comp does very well if they let WE come into them.
Yep.
It becomes more difficult if they try and step forward.
And now they're down flashes, at least on Crisp and Kanavi. Thankfully, Crisp took Unsealed Spellbook this game, so he's got a smite, so they have, you know, 2 ways to secure an objective away from WE. Cube getting jumped on by 369, but he's mobile on the Umbessa, able to get away from the Infernal Chains. Vampire stepping up forward, looking for JackeyLove, but the Soul Affair completely whiffs. Little over-aggressive there. Karis trying to send it, but now Top Esports get to absorb the engage just like they want.
Hold on.
Already past the execution range. Can he turn up in this fight, though? He needs distance. He needs space block for him. But everyone is just blitzing past the front line, and 369 puts this baby dragon down into the dirt. Top Esports ace WE, and we'll pick up the dragon.
They neutralized those dragons, then they neutralized the Smolder as well, who's just ticked over to having that execute threshold. That now ticking time bomb has elapsed. Can Taeyoon step into the future fights and be the carry? This time round, the answer was no, and for the first time, Creme actually absorbs the fight and absorbs the engage from WE. It was a little bit desynced, and that's the problem with this sort of non-committal style that Leona is playing, where if you are not on the exact same page as WE, you end up with fights like this, where Vampire is so far from anybody on his team that he's dead just as the Pantheon lands. And then the rest of the team try to follow up, but the Pantheon's already dead. If those things happened at the same time and the team are there to count the DPS in, this fight goes completely differently. But WE are just a little desynced, they're a little bit mismatched, and unfortunately it costs them big time.
The fact that WE lost 2 members pretty much for free and still made the fight close just goes to show that Top Esports are not out of the woods yet. Yeah, they're thankful that WE completely botched the beginning, but they still have to execute way better than WE going forward. The gold lead, not really that big of an advantage for the side of Top Esports, since it is just barely below 2,000. 2 dragons apiece for both squads. Baron has spawned at this point. We are approaching late game, Rood.
I mean, we're at the point, I want to talk about that gold lead a little bit. It might not on paper at the top look like it's particularly impactful, but there are distinct advantages across each lane, right? Mid lane is Karis Kingdom, which is balanced out by the bot lane, where JackeyLove has got this really good advantage. Now 3 items with the Flicker Blades. He's going to be running rampant with that Q attack speed steroid, having 100% uptime. And then you take a look, the sort of X factor here in this game is that top lane. It's 369, who's had a massive performance on the Aatrox when these engages have been going into him. I actually think both of our top laners here have been playing pretty darn well. Between Cube and Karis linking up to take down JackeyLove around the Drake early on, between Aatrox having a massive performance as well around another dragon fight. This is one of those games where each individual top laner is having standout showcase performances, and it's whichever one of those comes out on top, which seems to be deciding how these plays are going.
And not to mention 369 still deathless on this Aatrox. The only person... Okay, I say that, I forgot about JackeyLove also having 3 items. But still, one of the few people that has 3 items at this point in the game. So fed on the Aatrox, so massive. Top Esports starting up the Baron. Gonna try to bait WE in, if not just take it for free, since Monki is far away. 4,000 HP. Monki, can he flash Q in? No, it is secured because Crisp had the smite thanks to the unsealed spellbook. It's just a free Baron.
And it's Top Esports being able to just maneuver around the map that just comes out on top. Now Creme fancies a little bit of the cube here.
Chris throws out the Glacial Fissure, Vampires into the backline, Bomb comes through again, Monki is going to get exhausted, JackeyLove finds the first reset, and they are dissuading Cube and Karis with ease. Taeyoon is trying to burn them down thanks to the execute of the Smolder passive, finds Chris, but JackeyLove still reigns supreme alongside 369. Another race for Top Esports at 27 minutes.
Yeah, Taeyoon had a good angle, but 369 had a better one. He's full HP on the Aatrox, 3 items, and continues to run rampant around WE's backline. They've got the Baron at their backs, Raafaa. 369 has got enough HP to tank up these turrets. The inhibitor's going to fall, but can they get any more?
Might have been an angle for Creme to teleport back in, but because Vampire's back up and death timers are not long enough, Top Esports will just take the inhibitor for themselves here and wipe out the remaining jungle camps on the top side of the map. There's a dragon spawning in the next minute. The game is not over for WE, but it is now quite far out of their reach in terms of control.
I mean, Taeyoon is falling further and further behind, and unfortunately, he's not hit that critical capacity yet. He's got 2 good items, but Looking at JackeyLove, he's going to come back out onto this map with 3.5. The initial chunking onto Cube here looks pretty good, but as soon as the re-engage comes through from Mom and from WE, they unfortunately just fall asunder. And once again, look at Taeyoon trying to kill 369 on this top side. He's just got no damage to handle Death Dance Eclipse and a 3-level disadvantage. The Aatrox is just too darn scary, and without proper peel, without proper setup, this Aatrox may just never die.
I mean, poor Taeyoon has had an Executioner's calling for quite some time, and it just doesn't matter. They don't have enough HP burn. They don't have enough overall effective damage to cut through 369's effective HP pool with all the sustain that he has and the shield from the Sterix Gauge. This is so tough for WE, and for Top Esports, you know, so grateful for them to at least have such a massive performance from 369. You know, someone that we have on the LPL English broadcast have sung our praises about 369, who has, you know, relatively not received that much praise, it seems like, you know, in terms of MVPs and pogs throughout the season. We still kind of salty that 369 didn't get finals MVP back in Split 1, where Top Esports got their title back, right? You know, but 369 still many a time an unsung hero. Definitely not going to be unsung this time around.
6-0, 6-4 items now alongside JackeyLove, who is also having a tremendous game on this Tristana. I love this Tristana answer to the Smolder, because you can actually outrange the Smolder as you move later on, and I mean, with a full item advantage, obviously it's going to look pretty decent. But now a TP flank coming deep in from Karis.
Solar Flare lands on the Kanavi. They're going to try to burst him out quickly. Crescent Guard will block any damage from Taeyoon. Karis and Cube rejoin the fray as well, but Vampire's the first one to fall. 369 popping the roll. Ender's going to zone Taeyoon away from the fight. He's forced to flash away, and there's just not enough that Karis and Cube can do, despite all the fancy shenanigans that they were able to pull off. And 369 just blew up that baby dragon like he was made out of balsa wood. WE get aced once again. A quadra kill for Kanavi, and Top Esports are bringing us the match point.
A great fight from 369, and he just absolutely destroyed Taeyoon with one fell swoop, takes half the Smolder's HP, and sends Top Esports to match point.
Nothing that Vampire can do as he walks back from the fountain. Top Esports 2-1, one game away from facing against IG in the next stage of the lower bracket.
A massive performance from 369 here to put Top back ahead. And in probably our closest game of the series, Mark, let's be honest, this wasn't a wash one way or the other. WE had their chances in this game. You know, 4 kills on Karis to start off with, looked incredible moving through that early game. Creme was put thoroughly in the dirt. It was the bully Creme show. But they weren't able to fully execute on that. They couldn't make it work. And, you know, credit to 369, credit to JackeyLove for both stepping up and being big carries in these team fights.
The plan was working for a while for WE in that early game, until suddenly that one dragon fight where they just went way too deep into the waiting arms of 369, and we had talked about, you know, oh, they're giving a lot of gold over to Cubes and Bessa. You know, 369 is giving up a lot of his own individual tempo and his own individual advantage. Is that gonna bite them in the ass? Nope. Not at all, baby.
Not when an Aatrox just finds a triple kill in a team fight. All of a sudden, oh, those couple of plates, that one turret top lane that I sacrificed, it just means nothing, and he gets so much gold off of one really good team fight. And I think that's the hidden X factor about Top Esports that maybe goes a little bit under-recognized or has gone a little bit underappreciated. From myself, at least, throughout this series, is that during team fights, these guys are incredibly adept with their hands, right? Like, just by and large, you know that you're going to get good mechanics 90% of the time when these guys are playing their champs. And 369 for Aatrox was a quintessential pick in this game and looked incredibly strong and was always hitting, again, those priority targets.
And I think one elephant in the room that we may have kind of brushed lightly over, that was not a great game from Vampire, you know. And it kind of sad, because the first 2 games of the series, even in the loss, I thought, you know, Vampire was, you know, playing a relatively, you know, strong series despite, you know, the 1-1 series score, I don't know what was happening. I mean, like, obviously, you are Leona, you have the send it for the squad, but there's times when I felt like we're just going way too fast, and, you know, it takes some time. You know, the fact that Top Esports were forcing some of those fights, just wait for cooldowns to run out, and then you can find a proper re-engage, and then Vampire's just like, nope, solar flare, I'm going to, I'm dead, guys. All right, well, good luck.
Yeah, you know, sometimes that's why I saw the Leona and I was a little bit skeptical, and my skepticism has paid dividends in this instance as we get to take a little bit of a look at that post-game graphic. You can see that WE had their time in the sun, right? 3k gold lead at 17-18 minutes in. But unfortunately, despite the early damage that they tried to put down onto Creme, Karis not particularly able to do too much more work in those late game team fights than the Taliyah was. And again, it's another instance, Taeyoon 35% of his team's damage share in this game, and he's doing what he can to try and carry his team over the line, but unfortunately in this instance was not enough.
Doesn't matter if you can blow up the Taliyah, the Xin, even the Tristana. No one was killing that Aatrox, and when we roll through the highlights, you know, I love that you mentioned that this wasn't a blowout game by either squad. There were moments where both teams had really strong windows of advantage and momentum. The way that Monki was put behind early, Top Esports had, you know, a greater bot lane setup. Then they turn it around off of the over-aggression and the early objective setups. But then, you know, this was the big turning point where 369 just gets every single sweet spot right onto the targets he needs to hit.
Yeah, I mean, JackeyLove as well is free firing this entire time. Like, he feels so confident that he's like jumping on top of melee ranged characters to try and get that damage. And the reason that he's lost so much HP to begin with is because he's kind of thrown himself into those melees. You do get to see that, you know, this wasn't just a blowout affair, as you'd highlighted. That WE actually are giving us a pretty decent showing of things, and you know, unfortunately for them in this game, it didn't amount to a win. They were outclassed in that top lane, and I think that it's a matchup that's gone relatively under the radar, at least in our minds. But for this game specifically, this was a 369 versus Cube performance, and in the instance that 369 came out on top, he was the one that took the game for his team. I'm waiting for that final fight and just seeing how much damage that one auto attack from 369 did to Taeyoon. I need that final fight.
I'm waiting for it too. Like, here's a moment where Top Esports are throwing this engage, and I'm like, okay, just back up. Oh, okay. We're gonna force the fight right here. All right, well.
Yeah, I mean, the safety of that tier 1 actually did a lot of work for them, and 369, you can just see. Full HP still, has been in the front line the whole time, does not care. And this is the final fight that we saw from WE. I mean, the important part of this is that once again they are just a little bit scattered. Look how long it takes for Karis to actually contribute anything in this team fight. Hops over a wall one way. JackeyLove's already guided down 2 people. He's hopped onto Taeyoon, has to flash out to safety. And 369 is just a heat-seeking missile. Taeyoon has 1,000 HP, flashes for 700, and then a final 500. Like, what do you do with Smolder? The Aatrox also attacking me, out DPSs me.
80 carries in 2025, I fear. It's a tough world to be in. I can't even give you guys
there's no cope.
That. There's no it's tough. It's tough being a squishy glass cannon in 2025 for sure. And I pray, I hope that 369 gets his pog that he rightfully deserves, because there have been so many times in 2025 across both splits that 369 was the clear player of the game and someone else is getting it. Come on. Good job.
Okay.
All right. We did our due diligence, Rude. Wrap this one up. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to send it to a break. When we come back, it is game 4, match point for Top Esports. We'll see you in a little bit.